Why do China and Taiwan seem to be constantly on the brink of war? For more than 70 years, Taiwan has faced an almost constant threat of Chinese invasion. And a lot of it boils down to the fact that both strongly disagree over what their relationship actually is, which isn't helped by the fact that they both officially refer to themselves as China. China is officially known as the People's Republic of China. It believes Taiwan belongs to them, but sees it as a renegade province that needs to be unified with the mainland. Taiwan, on the other hand, formally refers to itself as the Republic of China. And while most of the world doesn't recognise it as an independent country, it sure does have a lot of the characteristics of one. It has its own unique identity, its own military, flag, currency, and government. Now, to understand how we ended up with two Chinas, we have to go back to World War II, when there was only one China, the Republic of China. The ROC was a member of the Allied forces and a military dictatorship led by Chiang Kai-Shek's Chinese Nationalist Party, the Kuomintang. When the war ended, the island of Taiwan, which had been under the control of various empires for the past few centuries, found itself in the possession of the ROC. Unfortunately, as one war ended, another began. A civil war between the nationalists and communists in China.
400,000 nationalists put up a last-ditch fight against overwhelming red numbers.
By the end of 1949, the Communist Party and its Red Army, led by Mao Zedong, had defeated Chiang Kai-Shek, who fled with more than 1 million anti-communist supporters to the island of Taiwan. This is how one China became two, with both claiming to be the one true China and promising to, one day, take over the other.
The heroic determination of Generalissimo Chiang Kai-Shek to fight on, whatever the future may hold.
Mao and the CCP established the People's Republic of China, with Beijing as its capital, while Chiang Kai-Shek announced that Taipei would be the new temporary capital of the Republic of China. If you're wondering why the communists didn't chase the nationalists to Taiwan, it's largely because of the United States. As the Korean War kicked off in the 50s, Western countries were getting more nervous about the spread of communism.
If aggression is successful in Korea, we can expect it to spread throughout Asia and Europe and to this hemisphere.
So the US established an alliance with Chiang Kai-Shek's regime, making an invasion by the communist PRC a lot more unlikely. With war pretty much off the table, the situation turned into a political fight for international recognition, as countries were forced to pick a side. The Republic of China had a head start, as a founding member of the United Nations in 1945.
China signing first, as the first nation attacked in this war.
But that didn't last long, as the PRC was simply a lot bigger, more influential, and a more attractive trading partner. By 1971, the PRC had gained enough allies to unseat and replace the ROC at the UN. It's around this time that most people started to think of the PRC as China and the ROC as Taiwan. By the end of the 70s, the US and Australia joined the growing tide of countries switching recognition to the PRC. The PRC was still a communist country, but a breakdown in its relationship with the world's other major communist power, the Soviet Union, led to friendlier relations with the West, which was extremely valuable to the US in particular during the Cold War. Even though the US switched its recognition for economic and strategic reasons, it still maintained a form of alliance with Taiwan. Basically, countries like the US and Australia officially recognise the PRC as the legitimate government of China, but in official terms, they only acknowledge, not recognise, China's claim to Taiwan. So they acknowledge the fact that China believes it owns Taiwan, even if they may not agree with it themselves. This creates a bit of a grey area that allows countries to still keep informal ties with Taiwan, even if pretty much everyone doesn't officially recognise it as an independent state. Now, while all of this was happening, there was a separate struggle going on the island of Taiwan. A key part of this story is that Taiwan wasn't simply an empty island when the nationalists arrived. It was home to millions of native Taiwanese, who didn't take kindly to being taken over by mainlanders. The KMT ruled Taiwan with an iron fist, crushing any political opposition. It took decades of both native Taiwanese and mainlanders from a variety of political backgrounds uniting together, often in the face of oppression, before the KMT's grip on power finally loosened. And today, modern-day Taiwan couldn't be more different. What was once the authoritarian Republic of China is now the thriving and open democracy of modern Taiwan. Instead of Chiang Kai-Shek's desire to take control of mainland China, most Taiwanese now just want to be free from the control of mainland China. And this brings us to the final section. If Taiwan isn't interested in retaking China anymore, why is China still so desperate to take control of Taiwan? China's obsession has less to do with what Taiwan has to offer and more to do with what Taiwan represents. In China today, the Communist Party places a huge amount of importance on nationalism and restoring China to its former glory. A big part of this narrative is something called the Century of Humiliation. The basic idea is that for about 100 years, China lost almost every war that it fought and was forced to give up large amounts of money and/or territories to various foreign powers. According to the CCP, that humiliation ended in 1949 with the formation of the People's Republic of China. And since then, the CCP has been determined to restore China to its former glory. And Taiwan is seen as sort of the missing piece in the Communist Party's great triumph. But what's standing in the way of this great triumph is the fact that the vast majority of people in Taiwan really don't want to unify with China. Taiwan! Yeah! China! No! Many Taiwanese don't want to lose the democracy and freedom they've worked so hard to gain. And to add to this, the majority also simply don't see themselves as being Chinese. However, anytime a Taiwanese politician even hints at Taiwan officially becoming independent, the Chinese government gets very angry and responds with military drills to intimidate Taiwan and show everyone how angry it is. The reason why China hasn't ever taken the next step and actually invaded is largely because of the United States. The US doesn't actually support Taiwanese independence. It simply says Taiwan's future needs to be solved peacefully, and that it'll step in to defend the island if China tries to take it by force. So what we're left with is the stalemate that we see today, commonly referred to as the status quo. China has no effective control over Taiwan's democratic government, and as long as Taiwan doesn't try to officially become independent, it still gets to mostly act as if it is, even though the rest of the world doesn't really recognize it. The problem is this status quo likely won't be an option forever, as China has repeatedly said that unification is inevitable and that they will use all necessary means to make it happen.